Let's bring in MS Now international reporter Ines de la Cuetara, who is in Turkey, and former U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine and former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Kurt Volker. It's great to see both of you. Ines, you're there. So tell me, what are the expectations right now for this summit?
Yeah, Antonia, I mean, so a few things we're watching. One is we are very much watching NATO allies going out of their way to show that they are ramping up their defense spending. It was a big win for President Trump last year to get NATO allies to commit 5% of their GDP to defense spending by 2035. And so this year they're going to show that they are on track to do that. It's why you saw earlier today all these new deals being announced worth billions of dollars. They're going to want to show that they are keeping their word. At the same time, though, I'm not sure that that's going to be enough to appease President Trump, who landed here in Ankara a few hours ago and already, just moments after touching down, was already voicing frustration with NATO allies, saying that they haven't done enough to support the U.S. in its war against Iran. I'll let you listen to what he had to say.
Well, we're going to see. I was very disappointed with NATO. And frankly, if it weren't held in Turkey, where my friend happens to be a very strong leader, a very strong person, it's possible that I wouldn't have attended. I felt I had to attend because of the fact that, I know he's gone all out. It was a big thing to have NATO come to Turkey or any place else. It's a big thing. But we weren't treated well because we did something in Iran. We don't need anybody's help. I didn't even want their help. But before I asked, they said they wouldn't be there.
So lots of uncertainty here, but President Trump isn't really doing anything to alleviate that uncertainty. He was asked earlier today about troop withdrawals. Earlier in the year, he announced that the U.S. would be withdrawing some troops from Germany. The U.S. has also launched a review of the U.S.'s military presence in Europe. So there are concerns here that there could be additional troop withdrawals announced. President Trump was asked if that was coming, and he wouldn't rule it out. And he again voiced frustration with NATO allies over Iran. He was also asked about Greenland. It was just earlier this year that President Trump was threatening to take Greenland by force. We were there earlier this year, and I'll tell you, Greenlanders we were speaking with were very worried about that. Trump was asked about Greenland again this afternoon, and he said again that he thinks Greenland should be controlled by the U.S. and not by Denmark. So, that is where things stand as we kick off this NATO summit, what is likely going to be a very tense NATO summit. NATO officials we've been talking to tell us that they hope they can repair the relationship with the U.S., that they need the U.S. At the same time, though, they are very, very much actively preparing for a possible future without the U.S.
Ambassador, do you see risk here to NATO reorganizing itself around Trump's whims, especially since he's not pulling back against threats like the one to Greenland? As I hear Ines describing the emphasis on deal making and sort of the business opportunities here and spending opportunities, it sounds very, very Trumpian. And that's not even necessarily to say that it's a bad thing for people to come to the table with these new deals. But it seems like they're sort of following Trump's new emphasis, but not necessarily guaranteed to get what they need in return.
Right. So several things here, and I think you just alluded to some of it. This is Trump's routine. He complains, he criticizes, he says people aren't doing enough. He keeps threats on the table. So, maybe I'll take Greenland. Maybe we'll pull out of Germany. Maybe we'll pull out of this. He likes to keep those threats out there to keep people off balance, to get them to respond, to get them to spend more money. And in many ways, it has worked. I mean, you look back to how many American presidents have really pushed Europe to do more for their own defense. President Bush, President Obama, you had the Wales Summit in 2014 where everyone committed to spend 2% of GDP on defense, and 3 years later they still weren't doing it. So Trump has gotten a lot more reaction from allies through the way he goes about it. But at the same time, I'm very skeptical that we're going to see any real consequences that would pull the U.S. out of NATO, that would destroy NATO. It is fundamentally in U.S. interests, and particularly U.S. military interests, to keep this alliance as robust as it is.
Ambassador, what do you expect between President Trump and Zelensky, for example? We know that he's telegraphing that he's going to talk with President Trump about their need for air defense systems. Do you expect Trump to support Zelensky and Ukraine with what they need at a time when, despite what Russia's sort of trying to show everyone, it seems that they have been able to gain real ground?
Yeah, well, what's interesting lately is that Ukraine, as you say, has gained real ground. They've made progress in terms of taking back territory the Russians have taken, having a superior drone and anti-drone capability than what Russia has, taking the fight to Russia so that they're really putting pressure on Russia's oil exports and their oil refining capacity, causing long gas lines and shortages inside Russia. And they're taking out more Russian soldiers on the battlefield than Russia can field. So the war has really gone in Ukraine's favor lately. I think Trump will recognize that rather than saying, as he did a year and a half ago, that Ukraine has no cards. I think he's going to, be impressed to say, okay, Ukraine actually does have some cards here. And Zelensky has been very smart to couple those battlefield successes with constant messaging that he wants a ceasefire. He wants to stop this. And Putin is the one who is not stopping the war. Hopefully that will result in a pretty strong and unified message from NATO to Russia that they need to end the war.
I want you to take a listen to some recent remarks from the president on the war in Ukraine.
It doesn't seem likely now, but sometimes with war, I see when it's least likely, that's when it happens. I had a very good talk with President Putin. I had a very good talk with, I would say, as a combination. A lot of times I'd do well with Putin and Zelensky would be a problem, or vice versa. Zelensky would be great and Putin would be. They both want to get it settled now. More than that, that's all I do in my life is deals. I know deals. And I think I think we're going to get it settled, hopefully soon.
Ambassador, we've heard this kind of optimism on his deal making before. Is there something that makes this round different, though?
Not really. I think Putin is telling Trump what he wants to hear. And meanwhile, Putin is continuing to wage this war with everything he's got. And I don't think he's anywhere close to having a ceasefire yet. And one of the things that is notable in recent days, Ukraine has run out of the anti-missile systems, the PAC-3 missiles that go into the Patriot launchers. And Russia knows that. And they've had several successful missile strikes on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, particularly in Kyiv, over the past few days. Putin knows that, so he wants to keep up these missile attacks and see if that puts more pressure on Ukraine. What I think would be great for President Trump to do is work out a deal with President Zelensky on how Ukraine can produce these anti-missile systems on its own under a U.S. license. That's something President Zelensky has proposed, and it would be very good for the world, really, if we could increase the supply of these systems.